Stefan Plug has done some interesting work on developing a BGP looking glass, and he will share with us his perspective on that. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Job. So first of all, I know it's coffee time quickly, so insert the standard coffee time joke here, Mike. So I have to be short, but whatever. So this presentation is all about the Alice looking glass, as already said. This is the looking glass we're using currently at the ECIX. So if you go to lg.exix.net, you'll see it in her full glory there. For this presentation, I only have my ECIX hat off, but normally I also have the Megaport hat on. For this one, only ECIX though. The main Alice dev is Matthias there, so if you have any in-depth questions on the code or anything, or feature requests, then he is the guy to go to. First of all, what is Alice? So if you go to lgexix.net, you'll see this, a nice search bar, basic fare for any looking glass, I would say. The search is pretty fast, I must say. That was one of the last things we actually did there, is to make that cached, basically. So if you search for an IP address, it should pop up pretty quickly. This feature does use a lot of memory, though, but maybe you would like to use that in your own things. Because it's all open source, by the way, it's all on GitHub. So if you want to toy around it, maybe use it for your own network, then definitely go ahead there. So first, what is Alice Alice LG there? So basically, it's a front end to a watcher daemon, and the watcher daemon, in our case, is running on Bird on our root servers directly. But we also have a Go BGP watcher, which we made at the last ECIX hackathon two months ago. So it is definitely possible to also in the future add things like a Cisco router or Juniper or what have you, maybe Quagga even. Yeah, so that works. That is pretty nice. So a short history. During the RIPE 73 in Madrid, I believe it was, Matthias went there and worked with Barry O'Donovan from INEX to actually create a front end for his new Bird API. And the Bird API he made was something that we really needed in the IXP world, because it was, as far as I know, not a really nice way of actually interacting with Bird other than being on the server itself, right? So that happened. They actually won there and got stroopwafels, which is the best prize ever for hackathons, obviously, right? When he came back, though, it was a coincidence there, because we were actually using Bird LG at the time, and we were having some bugs there, some weird stuff, and we had some manual fixes in there. And the latest was, for example, I updated our protocols in Bird, our peer names, to actually include the IP address, and for IPv4 that worked perfectly. For IPv6, it really had a problem with the colons. That got fixed, but it was just an annoyance, and it was all not really documented very well anymore. And then Matti came with his new Birdwatcher back then, Bird's Eye, and it was we're going to use this because it just looks pretty neat, and we're going to start developing it and making it into an actual thing everybody can use for our root servers. So what can Alice do? First off, obviously, it can show you all the peers, right? So which peers are actually up and which peers are actually down, how many routes do they have, as you can hear, but also how many routes are actually filtered per peer, which is actually a very interesting thing to actually see. More in depth, if you actually go to that peer, you actually see stuff like which routes are actually filtered, and also important why that route is actually filtered. And normal looking glasses, usually you see okay, my route is not actually accepted, but I have no idea why, right? So Alice will actually show you well, this one was filtered because the prefix is longer than 24, for example. Or this was accepted, awesome. And it can also show you, well, I have accepted this, but I'm actually not exporting this route to this certain peer, for example. And it will also show you why. In this case, for example, the route had a community set which just said don't send this route to this specific peer, right? Here you can actually see how we do this with Alice. The trick is actually to put, during the filtering in Bird, actually put a community in there just before you filter it, so that you actually have the tag there, and Alice will know about this community and will go, oh, this route was filtered, but it has the community set that it was filtered because the prefix was long or something. We use the large BGP communities for that, as you can see there. And that's that. So Alice also has a very nice API there. If you go to ECIX.net and actually add API config, you will see the nice API there, which we use internally. For example, in Slack, we now have a nice little command and just show me all the root server information for this specific peer, for example. This API should be safe enough to use, so there's only show commands, so something like this should not be able to happen. Yeah. So looking at the API itself, what will you see? Well, the state, obviously, and how many filtered, how many imported. This is all open, by the way. If you now go to our ECIX website and fill this in Alice there, it will return this. So you can also use that as a peer to maybe do some monitoring or check what the other peers are doing, right? And also if the other peers are actually accepting your routes, because you can obviously also check if your routes are not being exported, right? But I'll leave that up to you. Well, status, everything we think that you would need in a looking glass, really. So some more, you can see that. So more about the Birdwatcher itself. Remember, the Birdwatcher is the actual program running on the bird server itself. So it's Golang. It has some access lists, so not everybody can just go in there and speak to that API directly. It only does show commands, obviously, and it has some rate limiting. And you can also see that it does some caching. In my previous output here, for example, the orange there actually means that it was not fresh memory, it was fresh data, it was actually just cached, right? And the green is, I just got it now. So we are still in progress, obviously. We're still developing, although the last 2 months had been a little bit on hold, but we're definitely planning to further development. So some ideas we're having is to also actually show the routes being actually exported. Again, we already have the export filters, but we don't really show, like this port, this peer, which specific routes were actually exported to this peer. That would be handy. And also from this peer to that peer, which routes are being exported there. That would also be definitely handy. Some better memory management. As I said, we definitely now have a problem there. If you actually enable the caching of the prefixes in the beginning in the search bar, that works very fast, but we're now using like 4 gigs on our server just for this. You can definitely disable that though, so that should work. Also a problem is that with, for example, some pairs sending out a lot of routes, that it just takes some time to actually display that in the page. That's definitely something which needs to be better. And yeah, what do you need in a looking glass, really? So if you have any ideas or any things, then definitely go to the GitHub and just add some notes there, I would say, and then we'll look at it and hopefully implement stuff like that. So there are known Allisons, obviously ECIX, and also ColoClue, although I saw yesterday that ColoClue sadly is not up anymore, the looking glass. But I'm sure that will come up again soon, hopefully, maybe. I hope. I'm looking there though. And maybe you, right? So that is the Alice part, and I have a very small announcement though about some ECIX business. At ECIX, also 2 months ago at this same hackathon, we have been talking about the new large BGP communities, which are pretty cool to use. And we're actually talking about trying to standardize these large BGP communities for IXP usage, which is very interesting for you peers, so that you can actually know and go to an IXP and actually know what communities are supported and what you can actually use without like having to search everywhere. So it would be handy if you guys, this is not only do not send and do send and prepend, but we try to make a comprehensive list of all kinds of things that a peer would need to have on a root server. That doesn't mean that they need to be used, but it does mean that if an IXP comes along and thinks like, hey, it would be handy to have this or this in our root servers, that they can go to this list and go like, oh, well, there's already a community for this, let's just use that then. So some IXPs have already shown interest to do that. And I would please ask you go to that GitHub account check out this list and add some comments there and see what you might need as a peer, because obviously an IXP always knows best what is best for their peers. That is obviously true, but it would be handy though to have actual peers come in and tell us what you think, what you would need. And so yeah, that is my final thing to say to you, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you. If the Coloclu thing is not up, it means we've hit a bug and you and I need to do some debugging, because it should be up. It was up yesterday.
I know. That is not a very good commercial right there. But I mean, I assure you that almost never happened.
Are there any... We have time for one question for Stefan.
Hi, I'm Timeout from Coloclu. I just fixed the looking glass.
That is not a question, but I will accept it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.